You are standing in line. Your phone is at 1%. There is nothing to look at. Your mind starts to itch. That itch has a name, and that name might be the reason your species is still alive. Boredom feels like a malfunction. Something to escape. Something to fix with a screen, a snack, a scroll. But the real answer is far stranger. Boredom is not a glitch in your brain. It is one of the oldest survival tools your ancestors ever had. It did not evolve to punish you. It evolved to move you. Think about that for a second. Why would a feeling this uncomfortable exist at all? Evolution does not keep things around for fun. If boredom survived hundreds of thousands of years of natural selection, it must have been doing something useful, something urgent, something your ancestors could not live without. Here is the theory. 200,000 years ago, your ancestors lived inside a brutal math problem. Stay in one place too long and the food runs out. Wander too much and you waste energy you cannot afford to lose. This is called the exploration-exploitation trade-off, and it shows up everywhere in nature, from foraging bees to hunting lions to hungry humans. You exploit a resource until it stops paying off, then you explore for a new one. The question was never whether to move. The question was when, and that is where boredom comes in. Boredom is your brain's timer. It is the internal alarm that goes off when a situation stops giving you anything new. No new food, no new information, no new threat to track. The environment has been mined for value, and it is time to go somewhere else. Boredom is not the enemy of survival. Boredom is the alarm clock of survival. Psychologist John Eastwood, who has spent decades studying boredom at York University, defines it in a way that fits perfectly here. He describes boredom as the uncomfortable feeling of wanting to be engaged in something, but being unable to find that engagement. Notice the wanting. Boredom is not emptiness. It is a hunger for stimulation, for meaning, for movement. That hunger is not random. It is a signal built by evolution to push you toward change before your resources ran dry. Now here is where it gets stranger. In 2014, psychologist Timothy Wilson at the University of Virginia ran an experiment that shocked people. Literally, he gave participants a choice: sit alone in a room with nothing to do for 15 minutes, or press a button that delivers a mild electric shock. Most people had already said before the study that they would pay money to avoid being shocked. But when left alone with only their thoughts, a striking number of them shocked themselves anyway. Some, multiple times. Rather than sit in stillness, they chose pain. Why would a human being choose an electric shock over silence? Because to a brain shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of movement, stillness itself can feel like danger. An unstimulated mind is a mind that, evolutionarily speaking, has stopped scanning for resources, threats, and opportunities. And a mind that stops scanning is a mind that starts starving. Not of food, of information. Your ancestors' survival depended on constant environmental updating. Where is the water today? Which direction did the herd move? Is that rustle in the grass wind or something with teeth? A brain that got too comfortable, too settled, too still, was a brain that could miss the signal that mattered. Boredom, then, was never really about entertainment. It was about vigilance disguised as discomfort. This reframes something almost everyone has felt. That afternoon slump at your desk. That itch to check your phone during a lull in conversation. That restless energy on a slow Sunday. You are not weak-willed. You are running ancient software on modern hardware. Your brain is still asking the same question it asked on the savannah. Is there something better out there that I am missing right now? There is a term for this pull, coined decades before Eastwood or Wilson ever ran a study. Psychologist Daniel Berline, working in the 1960s, studied what he called the human need for what he termed collative stimulation, essentially the pleasure of novelty and complexity. Berline found that humans and animals alike are drawn toward moderate uncertainty, not too predictable, not too chaotic, just enough newness to hold attention. Too little of that novelty, and boredom creeps in like a low battery warning. Too much of it, and the brain tips into anxiety instead. Boredom, in other words, sits at the edge of a very old dial, one your ancestors were constantly adjusting just to stay alive. Consider what this means for exploration itself. Every migration out of Africa, every crossing of a land bridge into a new continent, every group of early humans who left a familiar valley for an unfamiliar one. Some of that was necessity, food scarcity, climate shifts, population pressure. But some of it, researchers argue, may have been driven by something closer to restlessness, a discomfort with sameness, a pull toward the unknown that felt, at the time, almost involuntary. Boredom may be one of the quiet engines behind the human story of movement across the entire planet. And here is the twist inside the twist. If boredom pushed your ancestors toward exploration, then boredom did not just help you survive, it helped you innovate. A mind sitting idle, scanning for something new, is also a mind free to wander into ideas it was not actively trying to find. Modern research on mind wandering, including work by psychologist Sandy Mann, has shown that boring, low-stimulation tasks can actually boost creative problem-solving afterward. In one of her studies, participants who completed a deliberately dull task, like copying numbers from a phone book, later performed better on creative thinking exercises than those who did something more stimulating first. The boredom did not waste their time. It rerouted their thinking. This lines up with something else your brain does the moment external stimulation drops. A network of brain regions called the default mode network switches on. This is the system responsible for daydreaming, for connecting distant memories, for imagining the future, for essentially thinking without a task. Neuroscientists have found this network becomes most active exactly when you are bored. Not distracted, not focused, bored. The very moment your ancestors' bodies were at rest between hunts or during long walks may have been the moment their minds were doing some of their most important, most original work. So think again about that itch. That restless feeling when a meeting drags, when a line does not move, when the scenery outside the window stops changing. It is not a broken system demanding a distraction. It is a survival mechanism that once pushed a species out of one valley and into the next one, and then another, and then across an entire planet. It is the same mechanism that, when left alone for even a few idle minutes, quietly assembles new ideas out of old memories. Modern life has scrambled the signal. You feel the itch of boredom, and within seconds, a screen answers it. Endless novelty, on demand, with no real movement required. The ancient alarm still rings. But the reward it once led to, a new resource, a new idea, a new direction, has been replaced by an infinite scroll that resets the itch without ever satisfying the hunger underneath it. You get stimulation without exploration, noise without discovery. Maybe that is the real cost of modern boredom. Not that you feel it too often, but that you resolve it too easily, in ways that never let the deeper mechanism finish its job. Your ancestors' boredom led somewhere. It led to new ground, new tools, new stories, new ideas born in the quiet space between tasks. Your boredom, more often than not, leads to a feed that never runs out and never actually goes anywhere. So the next time that itch shows up, in a waiting room, on a slow commute, in the 10 seconds before you reach for your phone, consider letting it sit for a moment longer. That discomfort is not a flaw in your design. It is one of the oldest instructions your species ever received. Move. Look further. There might be something better just past what you can currently see. You were standing in line. Your phone was at 1%. There was nothing to look at. Your mind started to itch. That itch has a name. And that name might be the reason your species is still here at all.